What's interesting, I think, is the way that we feel about ourselves, people can pick up on it.
Welcome to the Secrets of Being podcast. I'm Dr. Dawn Earhart Whitty, your guide on a transformative journey of personal development and discussions of universal truths. Join me and a panel of life coaches and spiritual leaders from around the world discussing how to handle some of life's greatest challenges. We will be sharing stories of love, faith, and inspiration with you, our faithful listeners, to live your happiest and most fulfilling life full of purpose and passion for yourself, your families, and the world. We are here to be the change we wish to see. Let the conversation begin. Hello, and welcome to the Secrets of Being podcast. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Sarah Barnes Humphrey. She's a best-selling author. She's an entrepreneur. She is a podcast host, and she's a fierce advocate for self-worth and authentic leadership. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and just appreciative for you opening your space for me today.
Oh, well, I cannot wait for this conversation. I always like to start the podcast off with a quote. And I was looking at your Amazon bio, and I thought the first sentence, I wanted to use that as the quote because it's beautiful. There is no final destination in the pursuit of realizing self-worth, just the courage to begin. And I feel like that's the perfect starting off point for this conversation because you talk about self-worth, finding your voice, reinventing yourself, and progress over perfection. So I want to talk about all of those things on today's show. So welcome, and tell us a little bit about your journey and how you wrote your book and how you got from where you started to where you are today.
Sure. Thank you for that. And I absolutely love progress over perfection. I have a t-shirt and I probably should have worn it today, but I did not, as you can tell. So I started my career. I went straight from high school into the family business. I actually didn't go to college or university. I did all of my college sort of courses. And this is going to date me because I did them by correspondence, which was before on what online courses like we know them today. And that was fairly interesting, but I ended up working in the family business for about 20 years. And it was a logistics and supply chain business. So I've been in that industry for almost 25, I think almost 28 years now. And I did everything within that company because my dream when I was 16 was to take it over. Take it over. That was my destiny. I thought that was my destiny. That's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And in 2016, I ended up as director of sales and marketing. And I knew we needed to be able to tell our brand story. We needed to be seen more. We needed more brand awareness. And I decided at the time I was listening to podcasts. And if anybody knows Lewis Howes' School of Greatness, I was listening to his podcast. And I was like, well, if Lewis Howes had a podcast, why can't Sarah Barnes Humphrey? So I asked a gentleman who was a colleague to be my co-host, and tongue in cheek, my team and I called it Two Babes Talk Supply Chain because we wanted to see how far we could push the industry. And it worked. We got 1,000 downloads overnight one night. But then a year later, 10 days before my 37th birthday, we had to close the doors. And I was out on my butt with no co-host, no team, but I had companies paying to come on the show. They were paying about $100. And I had to learn everything. I had to learn graphic design, social media, website design, you name it. I am not a graphic designer and nobody would ever hire me for that, but I did it anyways, progress over perfection, because I had obligations that I needed to fulfill. And so that was kind of my journey into podcasts and content creation. And I had no idea where it was going to take me. And I didn't have a job. I didn't know how to make money at it. But I just kept going and doing it. And I ended up getting a part-time job. I actually worked two part-time jobs and didn't pay myself for the first 3 years. And now we have a team of 18 people. 95% are women-owned businesses, which I am very, very proud of. And we've been able to grow in a variety of ways in supply chain. But then we also have a second podcast called Blended, and we talk about inclusion in the workplace. I bring 5 different people together to talk about that, turn that into a nonprofit. And then just last year, I decided to double down on my personal brand. And that's how the book came out and how I wanted to really share my stories and my journey based on my relationship with self-worth, because that's really all encompassing of what I do. So I'll just stop there.
Well, that's quite extensive. And I think talking about self-worth is something that I probably have struggled with over the course of my lifetime. You
Haven't
know,
we all?
I think so. I think so.
Hmm.
Some maybe to different extents than others.
Yeah.
But what are some things that helped you get to your self-worth? Like own it, own who you are, put yourself out there. How did you get from where you started to where you are now?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, it took all of my 40 years and I'm still on that journey.
Yeah.
So this book, it talks about finding your voice, and I correlate finding your voice to also finding your self-worth. And you lose your voice, you lose your self-worth, you find it again, you lose it, you find it again. Like that is the journey of our human experience, right? And a lot of times society is like, no, you've got to have it all right. What do you mean you lost your self-worth last week and now you have it back? Like, how is that? How is that a thing? But it absolutely is a thing, and we hide it. A lot of times we hide it. And so my journey to fighting my self-worth and my voice over and over and over again looked different in different scenarios and who I was as a person in that moment.
So, I mean, I think society tells us that we're supposed to do things in XYZ order. And this is what success looks like, and this is what
Mhm.
that looks like. And, we have to like shatter those preconceived notions of what things should be and allow them to be what they are.
Yeah,
And
the
do the
should
crazy
word.
thing. Yes, do the crazy thing. Like do the thing that people are like, you're doing what?
Right.
Even if it's calling to your soul, do it.
Mhm.
Don't worry about what other people think. And I think a lot of times that stops us and it makes us doubt and question ourselves.
Yeah, and I think also, it's part of the human experience to doubt, to
Yes.
question, to have moments. Like I'll tell you, this year I've been this week I've been on the struggle bus. I have been on the struggle bus,
Mm.
but part of the growth, and if you're able to go back and sort of take a look at the experiences that you've been through, but through a different lens. Who was I at the time? How did I show up? What did I like? What didn't I like? What was I good at? What was I not good at? And taking inventory of what that
Mm.
looked like instead of judgment. I think we could all do ourselves a favor, because this week of being on the struggle bus is very different to a week that I was on the struggle bus a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. This week, through the growth and what I've been able to do through writing the book. I mean, the writing the book was kind of like therapy. But what I was able to do was be aware of it
Ah.
and, say I need support. I need some extra support right now. And so I reached out to a new therapist. I've been in therapy pretty much my whole life. So I reached out to a new therapist. Or I realized on a call that I was getting amped up and totally riled up, and I had a tone and I shouldn't have. And I didn't take it too far because I was aware of it and I knew that it was because of how I was feeling this week. And so there was nothing to apologize for because I didn't let it get to that point. But then I was aware enough that after that phone call, I was like, okay, this is where I'm at this week. So I can be aware in my interactions and how I'm moving through the world this week of what I need and what I don't need and how I might react.
Mm. And
And
then how,
that only comes from learning and going through experiences and taking inventory.
well, okay, you were aware of it. So was that able, how did that affect how you continued that conversation? Did you stop and say, okay, Sarah, you're being a little crazy right now in your head? Or what, like, did that change the trajectory of how that conversation ended?
So, it's funny because I realized during the conversation that I was going there, like I was going in that direction. And so it wasn't even just a pause or anything like that. It was like really a like a click for me. And I was like, okay, we just need to get through this conversation and we'll deal with it later.
Well, and I think awareness is really crucial for me too,
Mhm.
right? Because a lot of times we react to situations, but if we stop and ask ourselves, who do I want to show up as? Who do I choose to
Mhm.
be in this moment, in every moment? You know,
Mhm.
it helps us with whatever we're going to say or do next.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a crazy dog doing
That's
crazy
okay.
things back here.
I got a
So,
couple crazy dogs too, but I have a door right now, so they can't bug us.
yeah, I always wonder if I should kick them out or not, but I always make the wrong decision.
No, it's fine. Listen, this is life, right? This is the progress over the perfection.
Exactly. Well, and I
There
wanted to
was
talk to you about that
Mhm.
because I was listening to a podcast you did with our dear friend Portia, and you were saying that when you first started the podcast and when you were doing the graphic designs and you didn't know anything and you just like had to figure it out. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of times we think, oh my gosh, we've got to be perfect. We can't do this if it's not polished, and we make a mistake or we say or but or like or whatever, and we get better as we do it, but we have to do it imperfectly perfect.
Yeah,
So how
some of my best listened to episodes are have the worst audio.
really?
Mhm.
And I think that's like a message for everybody because we think, I mean, look, you wrote a book. I wrote a book. We've written books. These are things that like you're putting yourself out there into the world. And somebody might not like it, but somebody might, and so and we write it for ourselves, right? You said
Mhm.
like with writing your book, it was kind of therapy.
Oh, it was total therapy because I had to go back and think about all the things that I had been through, which was tough, right? It's not an easy thing to do in sharing some of your traumas and challenges and having to relive them and feel re-triggered by them. But at the same time, it can also give you a new perspective on them. And if you have a focus on who I was at the time, taking inventory, what lessons did I learn around self-worth or finding my voice and picking myself back up again? What would I have done differently today? Right? There's no judgment in that.
That's
But it
key.
yeah, it's just taking the inventory and say, "Hey, I'm not perfect, but look at the progress I've made."
That part. That part. So if somebody came to you today and they were on the struggle bus this week or maybe this past year or whatever time frame, what kind of suggestions or guidance would you give them to say, I see you, I value you, you're important to me? There's a word for that. It's called sawabuna. It's an African word, which I love.
Mm. I
But
love that.
I know it's such a good word. I want to have it tattooed on me. But what suggestions would you give them to support them so that they feel seen and they feel like they matter? Because they do.
So for me, my superpower is in creating safe space for conversation. It doesn't really matter what we're talking about. I mean, I have a podcast about supply chain. I have a podcast about inclusion in the workplace. And I didn't come to that conclusion by accident. And this is sort of how it ties into self-worth. Especially like, and I would get told by guests all the time, thank you, you helped me feel seen and heard today. So my superpower isn't necessarily um, telling somebody what it is that they can and cannot do to be able to get through something that they're going through in a challenge. My superpower is to sit there and listen and to create that safe space without judgment and ask good questions for them to be able to potentially think a little bit differently or take a different viewpoint on it. And so that's my superpower. And that's what I've figured out through this journey and through writing the book and trying to figure out what my personal brand was going to be about. Because I went to a workshop about personal branding and he was like, "Your personal brand is about one word." I was like, "Absolutely not. Like, how are you supposed to come up with one word for your personal brand?" And I am so sorry. I have this like sunlight. I'm trying to get away from it. How are you supposed to do it in one word? And I thought about it every single day for a week. And I thought about like, what is it that I do? Right? How do people react to what I do? What do they say? What's the feedback, right? Because feedback is key. If you're not getting feedback from the people in your life, your customers, all that kind of stuff, if you're taking that personally, you can't grow from it. And so feedback is really key. And so that's how I came up with self-worth being the definition of my personal brand because it encompassed everything that I do. I create safe space for conversation. That's a superpower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it really came from reflecting on some of the difficult times. And also, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And who am I as an authentic Sarah Barnes Humphrey? Who is that? What does that actually mean? Right. And so I think everybody's got to do work. I mean, it doesn't come easy, right? Like this has taken me 20 years to get to this point. And so it's really about embracing that journey and trying to figure that out for yourself.
What were some things? And again, I've struggled with this too. Like, you're not good
Mhm.
enough. You didn't have, you didn't go to the right school. You didn't get a high enough degree. All those things that go on in our heads. How do you stop that loop?
Mm, it takes work. I mean, it creeps up all the time. It's
Hmm.
creeped up for me this week. Like I have a big launch coming up and I'm excited and terrified at the exact same time,
Oh,
and that's when, the voice in your head starts going, are you the right person? Why you? You know? And a lot of times I think it's really just about being aware of it
hmm,
and understanding that that is not necessarily my narrative and it doesn't have to be my narrative. It's living there, it's saying the things. I think
hmm,
sometimes we get too caught up in I shouldn't be having this conversation with myself or I shouldn't be having these thoughts. And that doesn't help. Or
right.
that at least doesn't help me. But I give myself a little bit of grace and I do some meditation, you know. Um, I'll watch TV just to get out of my head and to concentrate and focus on something else,
Hmm.
especially reality TV. I'm a bit of a, reality TV girl. Um, and I think it looks different every single time. I don't get it right every time. Sometimes it like creeps on me for like 5 days, and then I've had enough and I'm like, okay, that's enough. I don't want to do this anymore.
I like that you said giving yourself grace, because I think
Hmm.
that we don't do that often enough for ourselves. I
Yeah.
remember when I first started getting better at the negative self-talk was when I remember beating myself up verbally in my head about something or other. And then I remember thinking, you would never speak to your children this way. You would never speak to a friend this way. Why would you speak to
Hmm.
yourself that way?
Yeah.
And when that thought came in my head, I'm like, whoa, that was kind of the aha for me. It's like, I would not talk to anybody the way I talk to myself. Why
Yeah.
am I
But
talking to you
also,
like that?
what's interesting, I think, is the way that we feel about ourselves. People can pick up on it when you're talking to them, right? It's in the tone of your voice, it's in the words that you use.
Their eye contact.
Yeah. Yeah. All of that actually gives the person that you're with a glimpse into how you feel about yourself. So we're constantly showing people how we feel about ourselves.
So, okay, so the negative self-talk, and again, I always say it's a work in progress, right? It's not like
Yeah.
one day you snap your fingers, it's like, oh, now I'm aware of this. It's all done. I'm never going to do that again. It's a
Mm-mm.
journey and it's an ongoing process,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
20 years of therapy. I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're living in a world it's not simple. There's
Mhm.
complexities all around us. There's a lot of nonsense and noise happening. And so I think therapy is a good thing, or finding a life coach or some sort of support, you know,
Outlet.
yes,
Hmm.
an outlet is a really good way of saying that. So, um, and I just want to just hit on this again. I know we have to wrap this up pretty soon, but the progress over perfection. I really want
Mhm.
to drive that one home because again, I think we say we don't I don't know enough or I can't. You know what? We've got Google. We've got so many things that we have access
Mhm.
to. So what is it when you get those voices in your head? It's like, oh, this doesn't look good enough, or like, but I'm gonna have to put it out there. How do you give yourself the motivation to say, I'm gonna do it imperfectly perfect?
Well, one of the things is I don't watch any of the things that I do. I don't watch it and I don't listen to it because
There you
I
go.
know that if I do, the judgment is going to come from
Mm,
myself, not anybody else. If I've shown up authentically for a conversation and authentically as me, I shouldn't need to watch it again, right?
I love that. I love that.
I mean, if whatever I'm putting out there, I'm going to put out there. As long as I'm not mean or
Hmm.
unkind or, I am showcasing myself as somebody else than my authentic self,
Hmm.
then we have a problem. But that's a much bigger problem than me being on camera doing a podcast and having to watch it back again and then judge myself.
Mm, mm. Well, I feel like you are a very authentic person. You seem very genuine to me, and I feel like be who you are.
Yes.
Like show up as your authentic self. And there will be people that don't like you, but your people will find you. And those are the
Yeah.
people we want in our lives. So be authentic. In my first book, I have 7 words that I chose that you could be. And one is genuine, because I
Hmm.
really feel like, being yourself, speaking your truth, and saying what you feel, you will find the right community and the right support systems.
Yeah. Not everybody's going to like you.
Right.
You're not
And
going to get along with everybody.
yeah, there are 8 billion
And
people in this
the
world.
the other thing that I do that I think might be helpful to your audience is that I block out the noise. So I spend most of my time in my LinkedIn notifications. I don't spend it in the feed,
Yeah, me too.
right? Because
Hmm.
what's important to me is if somebody is going to take time out of their day to comment on a post or engage with a post or something like that, I'm going to reply. I reply to everything. It's one of our ethos and our core values for what we do at Let's Talk Supply Chain. Because I think it's important. If somebody is going to take their time and resources to give you some sort of comment on something, they deserve an answer back. And so I spend time in the notifications, which then cuts down on the noise, and I focus on what we're doing.
You're creating, not consuming.
Right.
And
And I
that's what we're
think,
here for.
and don't get me wrong, I get caught up in doom scrolling, but I do not have TikTok on my phone.
Neither do I.
I have Instagram. That one I'm still trying to curb. But those are like distractions that can really distract us from what we actually want. And if you
Hmm.
can figure out how to sort out that noise for you in whatever way that looks like, because what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for the next person.
Right.
But if you can sort that out and really focus on what it is that you're doing, the impact that you're making, who you want to show up as, et cetera, it'll make a lot of difference in the fact that you'll become aware when things just don't align a lot quicker, a lot more, you know?
Hmm. And there's ways that I've heard people do that. Say, okay, I can doom scroll for 15 minutes, but I'm not going to do it all day. Or, put a limit on it. But I love that you work with your notification, you answer messages, you answer things that are because you're creating a relationship, you're like working on your business. You're not just like constantly consuming more. I don't think the human brain is supposed to consume as much information as is being thrown at us or that we have access to 24/7 today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But
I
I'm
think
doing
that
what's
that's
important to me.
that part.
So also like trying to figure out what's important to you and who you want to be known as. Like, what is the respect that you're going to give back to your community?
Right. Well, it's part of seeing people, right? And
Hmm.
valuing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that.
So true.
Well, Sarah, can you tell people, well, first of all, Tell them where they can find you, buy your book, all of that. And then also listen to your podcast, and also leave them with one thing that you really want people to take away from today's episode.
Sure, I would love that. And thank you so much. So the book is called I Buried Her in a French Press. It's a memoir about finding my voice and the power of being heard. You can find it on Amazon. If you put in I Buried Her in a French Press in the search bar, I promise you it's the only thing that comes up. Not surprising. But there's a story in there about why I titled it what I titled it. And it's actually a story about my step-grandmother. But you can also find me on Instagram, Sarah Barnes Humphrey, LinkedIn, Sarah Barnes Humphrey. For Blended, go and listen to the podcast. It's about inclusion in the workplace. It's magical. I'm a little biased, but I feel like it's a magical place. You can go find all of that on blendedpledge.org. And then if you're in supply chain, I mean, let's talk supplychain.com. One thing that I would like everybody to walk away from this with is don't get caught up in purpose. Try to find your superpower. Try to figure out who you are and how you want to show up and what elements of that can be created into your superpower. And that's where you're going to find the magic.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. I wish you the best with your book and your launch coming up. And I will see you on the next episode of The Secrets of Being. Thank you for tuning in to the Secrets of Being podcast. We appreciate your time and support. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with more inspiring content. For further inspiration, visit thesecretsofbeing.com and join our community. Until next time, stay inspired and keep unlocking the secrets of being.